I'm King Link, and I think it's time we take a moment and look back at Humble Choice, Humble Monthly, and basically Humble Bundle altogether. The reason is this is about the 1 year anniversary of Humble Choice, and I've enjoyed reviewing the Choice bundles, but a year is a good point to do a retrospective and look at what's been put out over that period. Of course, if you need a review of any of the specific Humble Choice bundles, you can definitely check out my channel. Subscribe if you're interested in that. I put those out at the beginning of the month, but that's not what we're talking about today. And in addition to Humble Choice and Humble Monthly, Humble Bundle also continues to crank out other deals as well, and when I look at reactions, I keep hearing the same thing. People are saying the bundles are getting worse. To be upfront about it, okay, I'm not a huge fan of a few things going on, and I think there are a lot of issues with Humbles that don't get talked about or happen retroactively. While the bundle's quality fluctuates, I think it's more indicative of something larger going on. But I am going to be focusing this video mostly on Humble Monthly and Humble Choice. The main reason is that the weekly bundles have a lot of different factors, as well as allowing the buyers to allocate their purchase price to different places. Even just trying to talk about two different weekly bundles would be kind of challenging, so I'm going to focus on the more consistent offering. But let's start with a big thing that always seems to come up. I don't just hear bundles are worse. I hear Humble Bundle has gone downhill since IGN bought them. It's almost a mantra at this point, and I'll admit, I don't see it, especially when people are talking about the recent decline in quality. So the big thing this piece misses is IGN bought Humble in October 2017. That means to make this case, you really should be seeing the decline start somewhere around, 2, even 3 years ago. I'm going to be using some data compiled by Reddit user GoldArmor92, who, honestly, this is excellent. He did a ton of legwork for this, so it made this video so much easier. So thank you very much, GoldArmor92. I'll put a link to the spreadsheet as well in the description if you want to look at it yourself. Now, here I could make a very long, boring case about how each individual game bundle hasn't changed that much. I think instead I'm just going to quickly show the MSRP for the Humble Monthly's choices. Just as a quick note, the MSRP is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Just assume it's the price at launch for these games to make it easy. I don't think the MSRP is a valid indicator of quality, but it does give us a place to start. Though, if you want to know about the issue of the MSRP, quick example is that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was a $60 title, but also pretty dead on PC. Definitely not worth that much, whereas the month before, Assassin's Creed Origin was also a $60 title, but a very different value proposition. And you can absolutely say that Black Ops 4 was worth $60 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey wasn't worth, but that's kind of the point. Anyways, if you mostly care about the MSRP of games, you'll see the value didn't change that much, especially around October 2017. There was a huge month there, but it really isn't a big change. Now, on the other hand, the game choices have seen different picks, and while someone could absolutely make a case that some choices aren't stellar, let's just take a small window and look at it. Over a 6-month period, the early unlocks for Humble Monthly were thus: Call of Duty Black Ops 3 Multiplayer Starter Pack, Soma, Grim Dawn, Stardew Valley, Dragon Dogma Dark Arisen, and the first Vermintide. Now, these aren't bad games, but as the big headliners, they aren't that exciting to me at least, even though I adore Soma and Stardew Valley. So sure, that might be a sign that quality has slipped. The only problem is that this list of games was given out from August 2016 through January 2017, meaning this list was a full year before IGN was even in the picture. Now, this isn't intended to trick anyone, but rather to show that there were streaks of good and bad choices pre-IGN. Now, on the other side of the buyout, there was a 3-month stretch with Civilization 6, Dark Souls 3, and then a month with the triple pack including Deus Ex Mankind Divided and Mafia 3. Those games were released from February 2018 to April 2018, and, I don't know what you think of them, but I personally think that second list sounds pretty damn good. Of course, genre taste and what's already in your gaming library will depend on the individual, so it's not always going to be the same for everyone. Alright, but we're talking about Humble Choice here, so what about that? Personally, I think Humble Choice is a little weaker. I've said it a few times. I've actually called it out when Humble Choice was announced just by the theory of it. With more games revealed at once, there's less incentive to have that one big title and more incentive to push higher MSRP or perhaps games that people want but aren't really excited for. But let's keep this subjective and pop up the MSRP and show how that value has changed. Unsurprisingly, the value is actually really strong, though remember that people who don't have the classic subscription of $12 a month are paying 50% more for the premium subscription and actually getting one game less, at least they were at the beginning. But what this chart means is Humble Choice is a more valuable bundle, but I also think it kind of proves my point. MSRP or value means very little, as the specific games that are chosen means more. The MSRP may be higher, yet I prefer getting one or two major AAA titles from Humble Monthly than the array of games that are worth more on Humble Choice. Personal admission, I just don't play most of the Humble Choice games to completion as well. I admit, I have a huge backlog of over 180 games, including some Humble Choice games, that I really want to play. And, okay, a massive library, now reaching 2,000 titles, little flex there, but I also don't feel the pull to play most of the Humble Choice titles for more than an hour or two that I play for the video. But, okay, let's get back to the concept that IGN buying Humble has ruined the company. You know, I could dig far further here, but in general, no. I don't think IGN buying Humble ruined Humble or fundamentally changed the company. I think there's something else going on here. Before we go there, though, I want to talk about the last year of Humble Choice and a bit of an issue that I've been noticing, and it is important. So, everyone knows that Epic Games gives away games, but on New Year's Day they tend to reveal a big game that they're giving away for free. Now, in 2019, it was Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. For 2020, it was Jurassic World Evolution for that first week, and the next week being Crying Suns. Humble Choice fans probably already recognize all three of these games. They were in different Humble Choices in 2020. At the same time, Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, whatever you call it, gave out Sigma Theory and Void Bastards in the last year. And then there's Xbox Game Pass, which has Battle Chasers Night War, Neoverse, Children of Morta, and Indivisible, to name a few. All of these games have been available as part of Humble Choice, and once I started to go through lists of previous Humble Choices as well, and is there any deal, I noticed that many of these games have been bundled since they've been in Humble Choice. Some of them multiple times, some of them entirely too many times, and of course some of them actually were bundled before being in Choice. It's actually starting to feel that some of the major titles will be given away for free before long by any other system, and admittedly that's not a great feeling. There's also a decent amount of deals being offered by Humble. I know some people have gotten offers of like Humble Choice Premium for like $6. I don't want to turn this into a business course, but I know there are theories in the business world of loss leaders and how a deal like that is really good for the company. The theory is that instead of paying a lot of money to acquire a customer through advertising, it passes on the cost of customer acquisition by offering like a ridiculously good deal to new customers and hope they stay. The theory might be what's going on, but I also can't shake the feeling that it also means Humble will have less capital to spend on the deal part of the equation if more people are paying less. Whatever. Now, I want to take us back in time, at least as a mental exercise. When Humble started, the idea was simple. Rather than sell a couple copies of a game for full price, or, a decent amount of copies for a slightly discounted price, Humble offered a different deal. Instead, they packaged several games together and got a huge volume deal for everyone where people would choose their own prices and move a huge number of games for whatever they were willing to pay. It was rather strange. It definitely was mostly for the indie world, but it worked out that people are more generous than anyone thought, and some of these bundles got a ton of money. Eventually, this evolved into buying tiers of games and getting more games the more you paid, but both systems are somewhat similar. Profits per sale might be lower at times, but the number of games sold could create buzz for the bundle, attention for a specific game, and working in these volumes could create a larger profit. And then there's charity and tax benefits possible for companies involved. I'll admit though, I don't know if the publishers can get any of the benefits or if it's all Humble/IGN. That's not even mentioning other possibilities where these games could have sequels, DLCs, and other money-making opportunities, including eventually microtransactions, which, okay, that sucks, but publishers and developers found reasons to be in the bundle and were able to make some money off of these titles. The fact is, no matter whatever the profit-driven motives of these companies were, what Humble did worked. Humble was one of the first places to give these ridiculous deals. They actually started around 10 years ago doing this, and they were alone in the space for a decent amount of time, at least a year or two. It clearly worked well enough because they grew into this massive business that was bought out by IGN. The problem is, it's also been 10 years. Humble is no longer alone in this space. IndieGala and Fanatical are websites that are both trying to do what Humble does with some success. I don't think they do as well with the headliners though. But we also have many sources who buy games from developers and publishers to just give them away. The most well-known is, of course, Epic Games Store, who just wants people to use their platform with, I guess, some success. Many publishers toss out a free game every so often for whatever reason they want. Twitch has a constant stream of games for Amazon Prime members. By the way, if you are an Amazon Prime member, check that out. And now we're actually seeing Xbox Game Pass, which just has a huge number of games for a rather decent price. Humble is no longer alone, but it is instead competing against multiple different offerings on different platforms and different price ranges. That's not to say Humble can't make great deals anymore, but it also means that if a game is willing to be put on Humble because it's close to the end of sales life or using any of the means mentioned before, after it's on Humble, there's actually an incentive to cash in on the game with any other service who wants it and put it on another platform, or potentially all of them. But there's one big problem for Humble, and it's something that may have finally caught up with them. Most people know that there's a gray market for video game digital keys. If you don't want to pay full price for a title, some people will get a digital key and are willing to sell them to you for a huge discount. Now, there's a lot of different sources for these keys and a lot of duplicitous means for acquiring them. Most of these are illegitimate. But the thing is, Humble is giving legitimate keys. If a bundle is on Humble and Humble sells 1,000 units, that's 1,000 keys sold. So hopefully that means 1,000 people buy the keys and redeem them. But if a person buys the bundle for another game in it and gets the key, they're still able to trade their keys. And yes, Humble does state that users can gift keys to friends, so that's great. Of course, some people will bend that rule by running giveaways with their keys, which is a little more nebulous. And then finally, there are some people who will just sell their keys to third parties to recoup the costs that they paid, and those third parties will resell them. I'll leave discussions on the gray market for the comments section, of course. The point here, though, is those key resellers are a problem, but what's worse is that key resellers can get a decent number of legitimate keys from a Humble bundle. Those keys drive the price of per key down, and suddenly the developer now has to deal with the gray market that's selling many keys for such a low price that the developer probably will not be able to compete. There's a lot more to the key reseller topic, but let's hold off on that one for now. I wanted to bring it up, though, because I know some people in the industry, and that is definitely part of their consideration on what type of deals that they want to pursue or work with. And yes, that does mean Humble is a less attractive place to publishers and developers. But let's sum this up. So, ultimately, what's going on with Humble? Well, Humble used to be a place where developers could make an amazing deal and get a decent amount of money and exposure in exchange for heavily discounting their game. Today, they still can do that, but there's also multiple places looking to discount or give away their game as part of subscription or just to attract new users to the marketplace that will give them a similar amount of money, potentially more. Humble's no longer the only option. But beyond that, Humble has changed their arrangement when they moved to Humble Choice, and rather than only promoting a single major title as they did in Humble Monthly, they are promoting an entire bundle of 12 games and likely have changed the distribution of profits between those games. They're also giving large discounts to people for joining Humble Choice, and ultimately that has to be affecting the deals that they can make. Finally, Humble Choice provides long-term issues for games and bundles due to key trading and key reselling, and enables the gray market that traffics in those keys. As such, Humble has become a less desirable place for some developers, not all, of course. Does that mean Humble is now completely over and you should just subscribe to Xbox Game Pass? No. I still buy Humble Choice for a number of reasons besides these videos that I put out. While I now own Jurassic World Evolution on Epic and Sigma Theory on Twitch, I'm never going to use either of those services. Neither of them are on Steam, where I prefer to keep my library of games, and that's what Humble gives me. Xbox Game Pass, on the other hand, is an excellent deal with the number of games on offer. However, it is important to note that they're not permanent. If you're in the middle of playing Child of Morta and the Xbox Game Pass deal to host the game expires, Child of Morta is gone, and if you want to play more of it, you will have to go and buy it again. If you want your games to be permanently available on Steam, Humble seems like it's the best choice. However, I do think we're at the point that the realist in me says we're probably on the decline for Humble. That's not to say we can't have great bundles or great options in the future, but I also think the height of Humble is now in the past, and due to that, maybe it's time to readjust our expectations for the website and not just compare every bundle to some previous bundle that was long gone. I don't know. I'm sure I'll hear all the same arguments the next time Humble has a bundle, but at least I got a chance to talk about what I'm thinking about Humble Choice after its first year, and also some thoughts I've had on Humble Monthly and Humble Bundle as a whole. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, I'm super glad to hear it. Let me know by liking the video. I appreciate that. And definitely, you know how YouTube works. Consider subscribing, consider ringing the bell. Definitely share this video if you want. I appreciate all of that. I'll also mention, like I said at the start of the video, I throw out reviews of the Humble Choice at the beginning of each month so I can tell you the specifics of what's in it, how the games play, show you some of it, and what you might want to get excited about. I'll pop up this month's Humble Choice review on the screen if you're eager to hear more about this month's bundle, and also my list of the top games of 2020, kind of done in the same format. Until then, I'm King Link, and thank you for watching.